All right, everyone, it's 1 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this webinar series here, this episode on Google Analytics, where we dive into some professional training here with our Google Ads specialist, digital marketing manager. So if this is the first time that you're joining us here, just a little bit of background on who we are as a company. So we're Luca AM, we're a creative agency. We help e-commerce companies grow with our award-winning design team and certified digital marketing experts. So we just have a lot of passion in being able to help businesses grow. And with a influx of online businesses here that exist in the world, we want to be able to provide you information that makes you successful to scale to the level that you deserve. So who's going to be speaking here today? It's going to be myself introing here. I am the growth manager, so I have a passion for helping companies scale, and I'm always looking to share my perspective on best practices. And in doing so, we brought together our digital marketing manager here, Sally, to share some tips. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hey guys, my name is Sally Baker. I'm the digital marketing manager at Luca AM. So I handle everything digital you could imagine, from SEO to PPC, whether that's Google Ads, Facebook, Instagram ads. I don't do that alone, but it is nice to be part of a great team that's able to handle that.
Awesome. And like I mentioned before, this is a part of a webinar series that we're doing called Google Ad Must Do's. So you can check out our website at lucaam.com/resources to view the other helpful tips in building the most successful Google Ads. Next year, we're going to shift gears a little bit and providing you some value on how to plan for the entire year, your marketing schedule. So that next webinar is going to be coming in February 2021. So you can follow us on our socials at Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to stay up to date on that content. Before we go over, if anybody has any questions at any time, we do have a open Q&A box. So feel free to put your questions in there as you kind of roll in. And if this is somebody joining us on our recorded version here on our website, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, and we'd be happy to help. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of shift the attention to Sally here. She's going to share her Google Ads accounts and kind of tell us everything about Google Analytics. But first and foremost, Sally, why don't you give us a general scope of what is Google Analytics and why should we care about it?
Sure. So the first three webinars that we had really covered Google Ads very thoroughly. This fourth rendition isn't just for Google Ads. This is really for everybody. It's Google Analytics, and it's going to be your main hub when you're reading and analyzing and making decisions that has anything to do with your website. You can connect Google Ads to it, of course. You can integrate Google Search Console to it, but Google Analytics is going to be your hub. So this is going to be a really beautiful transition from just talking about Google Ads to talking about something that can help absolutely everyone that has a website, whether you're running ads or not. So if you can see my screen here, just give me, you see my screen here, Lico?
Yes.
Good, that means everyone else can too. Okay, so we're gonna jump right in here so that I'm not taking up too much of anyone's time. I really like to get into the meat and potatoes of things. So to go to Google Analytics, you just go to analytics.google.com. You're gonna make sure that you're signed in under the Google account that belongs to you. So for most people and business owners, this is your one main Google account. If you have a work email address, you can create a Google account with it. You do not need to have a Gmail address. As you can see, our support at lucaam.com email address is our main hub for our Google account that handles all different aspects in our Google account. So make sure you're logged in correctly there, and you're going to analytics.google.com. It'll originally take you to a home page if you already have Google Analytics set up. Otherwise, I just wanted to cover this section first. At the bottom left of your screen, you're going to see admin, and this is where you set everything up. You're going to create your account. For us, it's Luca. Well, this was our old name, to be honest, Luca Alamoda. We're Luca AM. And then you have your property, which is your website, and your view. Not to overcomplicate this, but for most people, this is just going to be your company and your website all the way through. But for us as an agency, we have this one of several accounts, but for this one account, we manage many different properties, many different websites underneath this account. And then within those websites, we could have one or more views. So again, I don't want to overcomplicate anything because for most people, you're just going to create your account and the steps are going to take you all the way through. You're going to end up with tracking information that you need to set up on your website. This is probably going to be the scariest thing you ever see if you're not used to setting this stuff up, but don't worry. You either send this to your web developer if you don't have one, if you're, a one and only kind of business and you don't know what this means. I encourage you to go over to the perspective section of our website at lucaam.com. Click on perspective. We've got a ton of articles that covers exactly how to do things like this. Or of course you can reach out if you don't feel like searching around. And there's other options too, more than one way to shave a cat. You can Google how to do this, or you can reach out to us. We're always happy to answer questions, whether you're a paying client or not. We just want to help. So make sure you get your global site tag initiated on your website. If you're an e-commerce website, this is very important. Under your view, you want to go to e-commerce settings and turn on enable e-commerce. We are not an e-commerce company, so we don't have this on, but if you turn that on, you can also turn on enabled enhanced e-commerce reporting and then click save. And that's all that you have to do for that. And then that's literally it. You're set up. You can spend a little more time in here. You can add different people to your account for people to view. I just always make sure that that is accurate. So whatever you have to do to set up some type of an alert to remind yourself to check who has access to your Google Analytics account, because people come and go in life and in business. And as that happens, you want to make sure you don't have a bunch of people that has access to your website that shouldn't, or to your Google Analytics rather. So just keep an eye on that. This is also a really important section here for goals. This is great for people that aren't e-commerce, like us, for example. So we have a goal set up for the contact thank you page. This tells me, well, you can see the past 7 days right here, that 16 people went to our contact page and 4 people filled out the form. So if you want to set up a goal, this is exactly where you do that here, whether you're e-commerce or not, but especially if you're not, you always want to make sure you're tracking some kind of conversion. We've said this from the very first webinar. So even if you're not selling things online, you're selling a service, you can still track your fill out forms or other things that you're interested in to see how your website is doing, where most of that traffic is going. Okay, so this is just covering that admin section. You are all set up, you are good to go, and you're gonna end up on the home page here. This is a really friendly page. It's got a lot of fun widgets. It's fairly new. Google came up with this just to, I guess, make it look less scary. As we dive into things, you'll see what I mean. But the more time you spend in here, the less scary everything is really. So you'll see these widgets here that tell you, how many users you had, sessions that they had, where your bounce rates go in, session duration, how many users are on your website right now. And then you've got the traffic channel, which is, this is how you acquire users. How many people found you from organic search versus direct, referral, social, and other. You can continue to scroll down. They're very self-explanatory. How are your active users trending over time? How well do you retain users? So these are very friendly questions to get you used to looking at these widgets. And if you want to dive deeper into any of those widgets, you can click at the bottom of them. Location overview, mobile overview. So very, very super friendly. If you ever get overwhelmed, just, click on home and just look at what you're trying to find there. This is another area over to the left here for real time that's kind of fun, especially if you are a high traffic website, which successful e-commerce websites are. It is kind of fun to see, where is everybody right now? For instance, one of our e-commerce websites, has hundreds, if not thousands of people on their website every single day. And we're able to see exactly how many are on there right now and where in the world they are. So we're here. So that'll explain where that's coming from. So that's a really easy overview. You can dive deeper into it, into all the different locations and the traffic sources and so forth. But just to not overwhelm anybody, that's pretty self-explanatory. Dive in when you get more comfortable deeper into any area that I'm talking about, but I'm really going to try to keep this top level as to not overload you on one single webinar. So the next section, which is very important, usually the first section that I end up at is the audience overview. So again, over on this left tab over here, we were at admin to set up. We clicked on home. And now I want to check out my audience overview. What does that mean? That means I want to see what my audience is. How many users do I have? How many sessions they've been performing? How long are they staying on the website? Are they looking at more than one page on average? A huge one is new visitor versus returning visitor. For most, well, I shouldn't say most, but depending on what you're selling or what your service is, let's say it's water softeners. We've got a wonderful client who sells millions of dollars worth of water softeners, but most of his traffic needs to be new, right? Because if it was returning, water softeners aren't something that you buy every week or every year. It's something that should last you quite a long time. So we need to make sure that the majority of his traffic is new customers versus returning. If the majority was returning, then we're doing something wrong. I will report that most of his customers are highly new customers, so that's good. So again, it's not too overwhelming. You can choose your dates up here. It's just in the last week. You can look at the last 30 days and then compare that to the previous period or the previous year. This is a really fun window. Whenever you're making any kind of decision too, you want to make sure that you're looking at a very wide window. You can track your growth this way, which is nice to see. And then down here, just where they at, what language they're in, the country they're in, even the city. You can look at what system they're using and whether they're on mobile versus desktop. So again, a really nice, easy to view general thing. I'll give you an example of why it's important to check this out. If you come in here and all of a sudden you see these graphs and then all of a sudden it's just down here and then completely flatlined, something has gone awry and you either actually have no traffic or there's something wrong with the tracking information on your website or something you want to get with your developer about, because you want to make sure that you're monitoring this stuff. And this gives you a really nice eagle eye view of your growth, where you're at, where you were, and all that good stuff. Again, you can dive much deeper into here and look up analytics on active users right now. Google will constantly have things like this. This is in beta, lifetime value and cohort analysis. These are very advanced sections of Google Analytics, so I'm not going to go into them right now. And they're betas, but I love betas because as those come in, you can get used to them and then, be a pro when it gets out of beta, and you're ahead of the game and ahead of the competition on understanding that analysis. Again, demographics you can look at even more, which is an overview of age and gender. Very simple. We can enable that right there. Anything that you don't have enabled, you can, Google will tell you, and you can enable it right then and there if you don't want to go to admin and do that. Interests is a very interesting one as well. So if you are running Google Ads, this is going to tell you different affinity and affinity categories and in-market segments. It's going to tell you a lot of different information of different types of audiences that are going to your ads or even to your website, and you'll make decisions based off of that by targeting or excluding those audiences if they are high performers or if they're low performers. So it can get a little confusing in there as you get a ton of data within it, but it works out really, really well when you're running Google Ads. I recently had great success targeting the top 10 affinity category and in-market segment audiences, and then excluding all the ones that were zero. I looked in the past year for that information. It took me a couple months to build that within Google Ads, but once I did, it was just absolutely beautiful, the revenue that came out of that. So geo, again, language and location. Behavior, we briefly looked at this with new versus returning. So you can get kind of a deeper dive into that, new versus returning, and what they're doing on the website. You can continue to go deeper and deeper into any of these, because there's thousands of things that you can read within Google. And if you ever get overwhelmed, just remember to just close this out and start again. Where you have audience overview, if you start opening up too many tabs and getting overwhelmed, just start closing things out and then start again. But don't quit, because the more time you spend in here, the more familiar you'll get in here. So we've looked over audience very, very briefly because there's just so much that goes into it. And we can get really technical as well. I do love this beta as far as device overlaps and paths. I use this on a few of my clients. And again, you can activate this now or later. There are some things that you should read before you decide to do that, but this can be fun for specific clients for e-commerce, especially and the reason that is because when you're trying to figure out where your revenue is coming from, a lot of times, Facebook ads wants to take the credit for the click, and Google ads wants to take the credit for the click. Organic wants to take credit for the click. And a lot of times that attribution is inflated on those devices, on those platforms. So supposedly this beta is supposed to help with that, to give you a much more accurate attribution rate so that you really know where your conversions are happening and where your revenue is really coming from on a more accurate level. So acquisition is the next one that we're going to look at. Just to recap, we're in admin for setup. Home is a nice safe button for those beautiful widgets. Real time is self-explanatory. We took a dive into audience, and now acquisition. This is really fun to see how you're acquiring your audience. So if they're coming in organically, which means if they're not typing in your brand name, they're not typing in your website, they don't know who you are, they're just typing in keywords that are relevant to what you do. So going back to that water softener client, instead of them typing his brand name, they would type something like water softeners. And if they go to his website from there, that's an organic search. Now, direct is just that. If somebody types in lucaam.com, that traffic is going to be put under direct. Why is this important? It's you probably already know you want those new customers. Organic is new customers. So you want to keep an eye on that. Some services, direct is great because we have a lot of recurring customers that get a hold of us constantly. So it's nice to see a good balance there between direct and organic. You can look into referral as well, whether they're coming from social or other areas. Others just means it can't be tracked. Referral can be things like email, or if we have a link on someone else's blog and they come over to us. But this is a really beautiful one to see for e-commerce, especially because it'll even show you revenue. And again, you can dive deeper into acquisition. If you're running Google Ads, you can look at all of your campaigns in there. If you have the Search Console linked, which you should, you can see the search queries there. So I'll just open these up so that you can see all traffic channels. So again, these are the channels that we talked about versus a source medium, which will tell you actually where they came from, whether it was Google or Facebook. We got people using DuckDuckGo, which is another search engine. So we don't run Google Ads campaigns currently, but if you did, that's where you'd see that. And just diving deeper into the Search Console. If you didn't have this connected, again, it would show you, like I showed you in the example before, having that stuff disconnected, I'm able to show you how to connect it. But I don't ever want to disconnect the Google Search Console. So this gives us much more detail into what people are typing into Google before they get to our website. Unfortunately, Google doesn't and never will give us all of this information because it's up to the user and how their privacy settings are set. For the vast majority of people, they don't share that information. For others, this is where we get that information. So we really take what we can get. It's really fun to see things like this, 2020 design trends. That was something, perspective, a blog article that did really well for us. So it's important to notate that these are real searches that people are putting into Google before they click on our ads. You can study that and base, if this was all Luca AM, then we have a problem. We want people getting to our website that are not just searching for us. And then we can base strategies off of these queries like, oh, this article did really well. We should write more articles on design trends, for example. And anomalies like this one's been around for a while. The Facebook red dot, we ended up getting featured on Google for being able to answer that question. So we're constantly getting traffic for that. So that's always fun. When you get that rich snippet, that rich card on Google, which is when you Google something and you get the answer in a highlighted box, you don't even need to click on anything. When you get the answer in there, that's your rich card. That's what everyone wants to get. Even though you don't have to go to the website to see the answer, that increases traffic on a scale that is just golden when it comes to SEO. So we got the rich card for the how to get rid of the red dot on Facebook. And that was several years ago that we put that article out there. We're still getting traffic from it. So yeah, there's lots that you can analyze here. Social, you can look at what's going on for Facebook, Instagram, and seeing what's coming over there. Sessions, every now and then every few days we put out a post, and it could be business related. It could be, if you're e-commerce, you should see a lot of data here if you're e-commerce, because you've got not just your products, but your lifestyle brand as well, hopefully, and you're doing a good mixture of that. And so those posts should be driving people to your website there. That's usually the lowest number we'll see on any client is the social, but when you're e-commerce, that number should be much, much higher than a lot of service-based companies, because there's so much you can do on social in order to promote your products. Okay, so we covered admin, we covered home, real-time audience acquisition. Now we're just going to jump into behavior. Again, whenever I go into one of these, I usually am just like overview, because this is while you're learning, this is a great way to remind yourself what in the world is in this. So in an overview section of behavior, I can see, oh, okay, so these are the different pages that my traffic went to. Just like I said before, the perspective on get rid of that little red dot notification on Facebook page is still our highest performing page next to our home page, and so forth. So you can then click on down into behavior flow. Now this is really fun. This is where you can see what people are actually doing. So when they get to that perspective article, they're looking for an answer. So most people, they went to that page on how to get rid of that red dot, and then they dropped off. So that's why there's such a high amount of drop-offs there. But even seeing 2 go through, well, let's see where they went. So you can see and follow through all the way to 11 or 12 interactions. But it's nice to see a couple go through, but for the most part, they got their answer and then they left. It's great. We got traffic, which is great for Google and rankings. But ultimately, we want to see more action like this, which is people going to the homepage and where they went after that. You can see that most people went to our contact page after our homepage, which is brilliant. Others went to our about page, which is lovely as well, because before, you're hiring an agency, yeah, you want to know a little bit about them before you're hiring anybody, especially service companies. You want to know a little more about them. Perspective is going to be the next one. That's where a lot of our resources and information, free information for business owners and people even in our industry, so that we can share that information in those how-tos. But again, highlighting the traffic through here, we can see where all these people went, where they dropped off. So let's say if we had a 97% drop-off rate on the homepage, that would be a major problem, and we'd probably need some kind of a redesign for that. So it's important to analyze that information, and at least to me, it's kind of fun just to see what people are doing. Again, that's called behavior flow. You can access that multiple places within Google Analytics, but this is just the easiest place to be able to find it. You can dive deeper into your site content, which we've kind of talked about already. There's that page again. It's just giving you another view. There's so many different ways to look at this stuff, but it gets very, very, very detailed when you get into things like experiments even, but site speed is important as well, because Google determines that as a ranking factor. But again, I know I keep repeating myself with this, but I really don't want to overwhelm anybody. But as you get familiar with these different sections and the overview parts, you'll find yourself naturally going into these different sections and finding out which areas are most important for you that you'll constantly be going into. Conversions, this is for e-commerce. We're not an e-commerce company, but this is great This is exactly where you would see your e-commerce numbers. So conversions, e-commerce overview. This is self-explanatory: product performance, sales performance, transactions, time to purchase. If you are e-commerce, you want to live in here. You want to see what's going on with your products, with your sales. And so that is a very, very big one. That's probably why they made the flag icon there, because it's super important. So when you're e-commerce, make sure to always look at that. Again, you can connect your Google Ads to Google Analytics to be able to reach them right in this section here into acquisition. You can just, this is a place to look at everything all in one, and you can dive really, really deep into it. The last thing I'm going to cover is for those of you that are not going to be living in here every day, but you don't want to forget about Google Analytics. So what do? I would suggest having Google Analytics email you a report every week. The reason this is because if you have an email coming in from Google Analytics every week, two things: you get a bird's eye view of certain data that you want to look at, like, oh yeah, that's nice to see. I don't have time to go into it now, but it looks, everything's good. Okay, good. The second thing is you're getting those weekly emails and you think to yourself, you know what, I haven't gone in there in a while. I want to at least go in there once a month, really spend at least an hour, spend some time really analyzing, seeing where there's any issues or problems that we need to fix. And this is how you do it. So if you're coming in here for the first time, your dashboard is probably fairly empty. So you'd want to create a dashboard, and or importing, I can show you how to do that here. You import from the gallery. I'm just going to walk you through this. That's exactly how it is. You want to import from gallery. Now, I will tell you that Google Analytics has been experiencing a heck of an issue for many, many, many months now. And whenever I try to do it this way, it doesn't work. So I have to go into the gallery naturally, which means I click on this button here, go to gallery. I'm going to walk you through that again. I want to import from gallery. I know that if I click import on this, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Google has issues. So does Facebook. So does everything else. But the loophole I found is by clicking on go to gallery. And then from here, you can look at the most popular, or you can search, nice general report is something that I search for. My favorite is client analytics, if you want to search for client analytics. And let me see if I have that open over here. This is what that looks like. So hope I didn't overwhelm you with that. So let me just walk that again. You're going to import from the gallery. You're going to go to the gallery, search for client analytics. Any one of these client dashboards, monthly report. When you download that, it'll take you back to this screen here. If you click on it, it's going to take you to that report. So anything that you download will end up in your dashboard. And you click on it and you view. So if you like the way that all these widgets look, you've selected your time frame. You can look at that. You can add widgets, you can remove widgets, you can change the orders of these. It's very user-friendly. And then after that, you just click email, put in your email. I'll do it right here. Click at am.com and say weekly Google Analytics report. And then I want to send this weekly on a Monday. I want to go to advanced options and make this active for a year. Now, this is very important, especially for my clients, because we send this out to all our clients as well. In this body right here, which is what gets emailed you, obviously the report attachment gets emailed to you as well, but within this body, you say something like attached is your weekly Google Analytics report that covers the last 30 days compared to the 30 days in the previous year, or the previous period if that's what you're tracking. It's also a very good one. This report will expire in December of 2021, right? Because I'm making this active today, December 2020. So please contact, if you're emailing it to yourself, you could please remind yourself, or please contact, support@lucaam.com to renew this email on or about November, we'll say 1st of 2021. So now, and honestly, I learned this the hard way, because people stopped getting the emails and they would contact us like, oh, can you send those emails again? Well, this has been a godsend doing this, because every time they see that email and they start to see this date getting closer, and I give them such a big buffer, well over a month, but that way we don't miss it at all. So on or about November 1st, I know that this client is going to be contacting me simply by saying, hey, can you renew my weekly Google Analytics report? Then I can just come back in here and email it out for another 12 months. Do the CAPTCHA, hit send, and that's it. So every single Monday, I'm getting this report. It's telling me what it is, so I can look at, it'll be a PDF that looks just like this. It gives you a really nice overview. You don't even have to leave your email. You can make sure everything is all right on a very general sense here. But it also serves as a great reminder to come on into Google Analytics every once in a while and really dive deep into your traffic, because if there's a problem, you want to know about it, and you'll know if there's something wrong if you are looking into your Google Analytics on a regular basis, whether it's that weekly report or whether you're diving in, at least once a month, just to make sure that everything's all right. But mostly for Google Analytics, you get to get familiar with your audience on a level that tells you not just who they are, but what they're doing. So if there's an issue, let's say you've got 3 services or 3 products that are doing amazingly. Okay, great. You want to continue to do amazing with that. Let's see what's working well with that. But then let's say you've got products that are just, you don't understand why they're not doing amazing, but they're not. And Google Analytics is telling you, yeah, all your traffic is dropping off of those products. So maybe you can set up Hotjar on those product pages and start to analyze how your audience is reacting with that page. Maybe it's something as simple as reorganizing the layout of that product page to be a bit more similar to the ones that are doing well. And if you don't have ones that are doing well, just reorganize in general, just to see if that helps the behavior. When you strategize like that, when you read this data and you strategize and make those changes, all you're doing is creating ultimately more revenue for yourself, because there doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, but you can view when you think that you should be making more, right? Like, I don't understand why I'm not getting as much traffic on these products. Let me switch some things around. You go back into Google Analytics and look over the next 30 days. And if you're seeing increases, then boom, you've done something right. So that is a very general, but wordy detail about Google Analytics for beginners. But I think this is more information than you would get on any YouTube video or other tutorials. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
Absolutely. I think that was a great insight into the beginners of understanding, why the heck this matters, and just how to dive into it, especially starting out with that weekly report, just kind of get familiar with things. And knowing that most of the audience is going to be business owners trying to make sure that they can make improvements for their business. Can you walk us through an example of a time you've used Google Analytics to make adjustments to increase revenue for one of our clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a client whose products they were not performing at their greatest potential. And we knew this, and this was overall. We knew this because we were analyzing the behavior flow on Google Analytics, and there was so many drop-offs from the homepage. There's the vast majority, or any page that they landed on, the vast majority, the upper 90% were all dropping off. This told me that people are confused. So we went into the front end of the website and we thought to ourselves, if I knew nothing about this product, what would my questions be? Would this website be answering them, or would it just confuse me even more? Obviously, the answer was it just confused me even more. So we completely reorganized the website. We reorganized his categories, and the product placement within those categories. From the moment we did that, it was night and day with sales. To this day, we're still modifying after every quarter or so, kind of modifying and simplifying and beautifying the way that that website looks to make sure that we're presenting the products to the best of their abilities, but there's so much information that goes into them that we need to make sure we're presenting them on an easy to understand level while also providing the detailed information within the products, whether that's things like including a drop-down menu. If you've ever gone to a product page, you see the price, you see the picture of the product, you see a little description, but then there's little drop-downs under that. You know, if you want to look at specs, international resources, et cetera, we have, you know, several drop-downs within that so that people can really get detailed into what goes into that product, because some people really do care about that, others don't. It always just depends on your industry. So that was night and day for that customer. And like I said, we don't just set it and forget it. We continue to make updates to that website just to make sure that, and all of our clients' websites, to make sure that their products are being shown on a level that's aesthetically pleasing, right? It's beautiful, but it's got to make sense. It's got to be clear and simple. And then we can provide you with more information within the product with a single click, if you so care to read on about all the different information with that product. But even from the homepage, to just guide them of where they're going, you know, we want to have most control possible from when someone gets to the website and really control the flow and funnel them through to the checkout process. So you want to make sure they know the difference between category A, B, and C. And if they choose category B, then you want to make sure that they understand what their next step is. You don't ever want to lose them by making them feel overwhelmed, like, you know what, this is just too much for me. And then they Google something else and find something simpler from a competitor.
And I think that's a really good point to pull back in to our previous webinars and talking about Google ads, right? You can run really quality ads and get a ton of traffic to the website, but if it's organized in a way that makes it confusing for people, or it's not properly identifying, solving that solution, then you're going to have drop off and it's not going to convert. So this is another reason why this is so huge in the success specifically of e-commerce brands. I know we dived into quite a bit here, so naturally there might be opportunity for questions. In our chat, I've dropped a link for our resources page so you can check out the other webinars as a part of this series. As well as the perspective Sally mentioned a couple of times in there for other free information for any businesses. And if you want to dive further into the processes of, you know, how this could help, or any agency questions, anything like that, please use our contact page and we'd be more than happy to help. I want to thank everybody for joining and taking the time, and look forward to seeing you next year at our new webinar series.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.